Hello and welcome to Simply Balanced, the podcast where we dive into, all things balanced. I'm your host, Taylor Grosso, a registered dietitian with a passion to helping you find your unique Balance Girl aesthetic in this often hectic world. Each episode will explore different facets of living a balanced life, whether it's unraveling the latest nutrition trends, discovering mindful eating strategies, or discussing tips for a balanced lifestyle that fits your routine. Balance isn't about perfection, it's about making choices that feel right for you, nurturing your body and mind, and enjoying life's simple pleasures. So whether you're sipping your morning coffee, heading out for a walk, or winding down for the evening, I'm thrilled to have you join me. So let's dive in and talk, all things balanced. Hello, besties, and welcome back to another episode of Simply Balanced. As always, thank you so much for being here. And I also just wanted to say that I really appreciate all of you in being flexible with my podcast because, quite honestly, like I mentioned in my stories, if you didn't see it, I am a one-woman show. The entire Simply Healthy business, everything that you see from me comes directly from me. As of right now, I do not have any employees besides my podcast producer, Austin, who is the GOAT and makes this thing happen every single week for all of you. But in working on a new program and working on new ways to work with as many women as possible and kind of curating a space where I'm really hoping that that's going to be the new wave of how coaching and working with me looks like. More details to come on that, but it's just been a little bit crazy around here. So I appreciate you guys being patient with me and recognizing that it's okay for me to take a break. Honestly, that's more so me than you because I got a lot of touching messages from all of you saying that it was really good of me to be transparent and share what was going on with all of you. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate you all. I want to mention that today's topic is going to be, can you lose weight while intuitively eating? Because the amount of times that I get asked this question is astronomical. And I think that it's a really important topic to cover because I think that it really does get skewed on social media. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But before we really get started in the episode, I went to a hot yoga class this morning, and the teacher who taught it, I absolutely love her. She's great. Her name is Madeline, and she teaches at the Johnston Studio. If you're a local Iowan, I'm talking about Power Life Yoga. Went to a sculpt class, and what she said for kind of the theme of the class this morning was the longest relationship that you have is the one with your body. And I think this really resonated with me so deeply because I constantly think about how I've gone to therapy. I've done a lot of work to have more positive relationships in my life and undo, quite honestly, toxic behaviors that I had from previous relationships that kind of messed me up a little bit. And I want to have a healthy marriage. I want to have healthy relationships with my friends, with my family members, with people in my life. So why in the world do we constantly strive for these healthy relationships with other people, but we don't strive for that healthy relationship with ourselves? And I think that it also struck a chord with me because something that I remember saying, and that honestly I say to clients a lot, and I know it's a cheesy saying, but why would you say that to yourself if you wouldn't say it to your best friend? I think that this goes really into that too, where you can look at yourself and be like, why am I putting so much effort and work into having these positive relationships with everyone else? But the longest relationship that I will ever have is with myself, food, my body, right? The body that you exist and live in. So the question that I want to leave you to ponder, whether it's throughout this episode or after the episode is over, is what is one thing that you can do over the course of whether it be the next week or month to love yourself a little bit more? And also, feel free to send me a DM if you want to share what that is, because I want to hear how you are loving yourself. How I have been loving myself lately is I am very, very connected to my phone because it's my job. And it's really, really hard to turn off work when it is literally at your fingertips at all times. So what I've been doing to take care of myself lately and prevent more burnout than I'm already experiencing is any time that I am going on a walk, because that is my me time. I love me a hot girl walk. If I am going on a walk, my phone is either in do not disturb mode and my podcast is already queued up and I am not touching the phone the entire time I'm on the walk. Or if it's a family walk with Zachary, my phone is staying at home and I am not touching it because there's no temptation. There's no need for me to be on my phone 24/7. There is no need for me to work 24/7. And that's why I'm reaching the point of burnout that I'm reaching. So to take care of myself, I have been disconnecting from my phone, not as much as I would like, but more than I was before. And for that, I'm very proud of myself. So I just wanted to leave you all with that little tidbit, but let's dive into the episode of Can You Lose Weight While Intuitively Eating? Now, I just want to start off by saying that I don't think that many of you are going to like what my answer to this is, because the answer is yes and no. Because can you lose weight while intuitively eating? Yeah, you absolutely can. However, is that the main goal of intuitive eating? Absolutely not. And I think when I said there's a lot of misinformation about this on social media and on the internet, what I see quite often is that people assume that intuitive eating dietitians are anti-health, that we're promoting obesity, that we don't try to help people live healthier lives. But in reality, we are doing literally the exact opposite. Because as an intuitive eating dietitian, I am by no means against weight loss. I say this to every client that comes to me and is like, look, I want to intuitively eat. I want to live a life that's free from this control and trappedness. That's not a word, but this control that I feel by food. I want to live a life free of that. But on the other hand, I want to lose weight. My response to them is always, I 100% understand that. We live in a society where weight loss, thinness, being the smallest version of yourself is constantly praised. Of course, that is something that is in the back of your head and probably why intuitive eating feels like something that would be scary for you. Because the way that intuitive eating is oftentimes promoted is that it's unconditional permission to eat. And in theory, that's not incorrect. It is unconditional permission to eat all foods. That is kind of the basis of intuitive eating. However, if you haven't listened to my intuitive eating principles episode, I really highly encourage you to listen to that episode prior to this one, because I think it will give a lot of context into the nuances that are associated with intuitive eating and what the principles and the foundation of the practice actually mean. But when it comes to this, that yes, at its core, it is the unconditional permission to eat. But being intuitive also means leaning into how food makes your body feel, being more in tune with your body. And I talk about this a lot on all of my social media pages, but when we talk about nutrition, it's objective and it's subjective. It's objective from the sense that we as human beings, we need nourishment. We need whole grains, we need fiber, we need fruits and vegetables, we need lean sources of protein. We know that these things have benefit to pretty much any human being that exists. Now, when we look at those objective principles and that objective education around nutrition, the reality is that no two people live the same exact life. No two people have the same income. No two people work the same. I mean, I know there's people out there who work the same job, but they don't live the same life outside of that job, right? Everybody's lives are completely different. So the key to this is to take that objective knowledge and apply it subjectively to your life. Because if you are just taking the knowledge and we're looking at it at this basic principle level of like, I have to eat protein at every meal, I have to track my calories, I have to track my macros, that's what creates this all or nothing mindset for a lot of people when it comes to nutrition. And that is what truly makes nutrition unsustainable. And I promise that all of this is going to tie back into like the whole weight loss shenanigan when it comes to intuitive eating. Because the reason that I'm saying all of this and why it's important to know the objectivity and the subjectivity and the sustainability aspect is that no matter what, whether you're losing weight from any sort of instance, that should be something that is short term and then switch to sustainability habits. Now, I'm saying this from the perspective of if you're going to come to work with me or most intuitive eating dietitians, the focus is never going to be weight loss, because the very first principle of intuitive eating is rejecting the diet mentality. The diet mentality is focusing on dieting, like specifically dieting in a way to lose weight or change your body or shrink your body. And that is not the purpose of intuitive eating. But the reason that I say that you could still lose weight with intuitive eating is because maybe you learn how to tune into your body a little bit better and you start to understand what portions make you feel your absolute best. And I'll get into mindful portioning a little bit more later on in the episode. But I think that what's so important here is recognizing that it can be true that you can lose weight from intuitive eating, but that should not be the main reason that you are trying to intuitively eat. Because I've even seen this kind of be like a trend on social media where people are like, I stopped doing XYZ and I started eating intuitively and I lost weight, so you should eat intuitively too. But that shouldn't be the motivation behind why you're intuitively eating. Now, the reason for this and the reason that intuitive eating dietitians are not promoting weight loss, like I said, we're not against weight loss, we're just not promoting it and we're not tying it to nutrition, health, and fitness. I like to zoom out and kind of look at health from this holistic perspective. I like to talk about nutrition, sleep, stress management, and fitness. Those are kind of like the 4 components in my mind that equate to totality of health. Because the reality is that yes, when you work with a dietitian or when you're talking to a dietitian, of course, we're going to primarily focus on nutrition because that's my wheelhouse. That's what I'm good at. But on the other hand, sleep, stress management, and fitness all play into your nutrition. So it's also really important to understand where you are at in each of those categories. But what I want you to think about, because a lot of you have probably been in this exact same scenario where you started tracking your calories or tracking your macros, or you started a fitness routine in an effort to lose weight. Now, I typically see this going one of 2 directions. I typically see people going down the route of it's the all or nothing mindset. We're doing an 8-week challenge, a 6-week challenge, a 30-day challenge, whatever it is. And during that time period that you're giving yourself, you are all or nothing. You're working out 6 or 7 days a week. You're tracking your macros to a freaking T. You're hitting your calories every single day. You're following the diet, whatever it is. Now, as soon as the scale stops moving, or as soon as the event, right, whether it's a birthday, whether it's a trip, whether it's a wedding, as soon as the event occurs, what happens? The motivation is lost, right? Because the event's over. You don't need to lose the weight for anything else. Or the scale stopped moving. Obviously, none of this is working, so why would I continue doing it? And the problem with that is that even though these behaviors, the ways in which you're doing them for the dieting purposes and for the weight loss purposes are theoretically probably not the healthiest, right? Because we're typically restricting calories, we're typically cutting out food groups, we're doing a lot of things that aren't necessarily beneficial to our health. However, when we think about that being tied to the weight loss, that weight loss is our only motivating factor to continue doing any of these habits. And the problem with that is we're not seeing any of these habits as a benefit. We're seeing all of these habits as a means to shrink ourselves. We're seeing these habits as a means to lose weight. We're seeing these habits as punishment, right? You ate too much over the weekend, so now you got to go on a run. Or, gosh dang it, I had that ice cream cone on Friday and now I'm not allowed to have breakfast on Saturday. That's a punishment. That's not viewing the ways in which food can benefit you in a positive way. And so that all or nothing mindset is where then we see people slip into the what I like to call the fuck it category, where they're like, well, fuck it, it's not working anymore. The scale's not moving, I'm plateaued, or the event happened, I don't really care anymore. So screw all of those things. It's too hard and it's not sustainable, right? We also have the other category that I slipped into, where I started tracking my macros just to be a little bit healthier. I wanted to just know if I was getting enough protein. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't overeating or eating too many carbs because I really didn't know what I needed to be eating. And at this time, I genuinely didn't. I had not went to school to become a dietitian yet. I was a track and cross country athlete in high school. And then as I transitioned into early college, which for those of you that don't know, dietetics in the early years, it's a lot of biochem, it's a lot of OChem, it's a lot of like your basic classes. It's really not diving into like nutrition or metabolism specifically to the human body. And in this time frame, I started it out of, I'm just going to track it just to, get a little bit more toned, get a little bit more lean going into college, all of these things. But what happened? It became an obsession. It became something that consumed every ounce of my thought. Food was the only thing I thought about. Fitness was the only thing I thought about. If I didn't work out, I was a bitch. Like, literally was so mean. If I didn't have access to foods that I deemed healthy or safe, I was also mean. I can remember many trips that I went on during the end of high school and early into college where I had so much anxiety that I would just lash out at the people that I was on the trips with. But it was all related to food. At the time, I just didn't have enough self-awareness to correct or connect those things because I thought that I was doing what was healthiest for me. Little did I know, health does not equate to being the thinnest or smallest version of myself. And that is the other category that I see, unfortunately, a lot of women fall into, is this disordered eating, or even going as far as an eating disorder, because the motivation becomes something that's almost more of a control factor. You love controlling food. You love controlling exercise. And not to mention, I just posted a video about this, a lot of the times the gratification that comes from that, right? Like, the unfortunate thing about our society is that when a woman loses weight, when her body shifts or changes into a smaller version, she gets complimented. And what does that do? If she's partaking in unhealthy behaviors, she's like, but people like me more. People are complimenting me. I want to keep doing these unhealthy behaviors even though they're making me feel awful, even though I feel insane, because I'm getting complimented. And unfortunately, it's not our fault that we feel that way. That is what society has created, is this concept where a woman feels better if she exists in a smaller body. Women shouldn't take up space. Women should be quiet. Women should sit down. That is what we've been taught as females. And so women have to constantly feel like they need to shift or change their bodies to match whatever the societal pressure is at that current moment. But the reality of all of this is the fact that weight loss is never going to be the answer to what you're looking for. And when I hear people say, but I need to lose weight for my health, I have health conditions going on, I'm pre-diabetic, or I have PCOS, or I have insulin resistance, I'm like, I totally get that. And I know that your doctor told you that you need to lose weight and these things will go away. But the weight is not necessarily the root cause of these things that you're experiencing. And what we can do instead of focusing on the diet, instead of viewing it as a form of punishment, instead of going into this all or nothing mindset on either the fuck it category or the obsessive category, we can look at habits. We can look at habits that coincide with nutrition, fitness, sleep, and stress management. Because like I mentioned in the beginning, is that these diets or these things that we do, they don't always start off inherently unhealthy. Sometimes they start off as a genuine pursuit of wanting to improve your health. But the unfortunate thing is that we constantly think that in order to improve our health, we have to lose weight. But what I always tell people, because I always get this question on social media too, is not just that, like, can you eat intuitively and lose weight? It's also, but if I'm not tracking calories, if I'm not tracking macros, if I'm not following a diet, like, how can I lose weight? The reality is if you are partaking in behaviors that fall into these categories, eating nutrient-dense foods 75 to 80% of the time, you're moving your body in ways that you enjoy a couple of times a week. You're focusing on getting in some steps throughout the course of your day. You're sleeping pretty well. You're managing your stress to the best of your ability. Your body is likely going to shift to a place that it's metabolically happy. The hard part for a lot of women is the fact that where your body is most metabolically happy might not be the ideal weight that you had in your head. And my challenge to you is, if you are feeling that way, if you're like, Taylor, I checked all those boxes, but I still don't feel happy. What is it? Why is the reason that you're wanting to lose weight? Where is that coming from? Outside, because if you check all those boxes that I just mentioned, then you're taking care of your health. So you don't want to lose weight to improve your health. There's more to it than that. And same for when it comes to these conditions like prediabetes, diabetes, PCOS, insulin resistance. A lot of these things that we see talked about on social media quite often is it's not a matter of these individuals needing to lose weight. It's a matter of not understanding how to eat. Because you think about it, when you go to the doctor and you get diagnosed with prediabetes, the amount of women that have come to me and they're like, I was just told to cut out carbohydrates and lose weight. And that was all I was given. And I had no idea what to do. So then I went to social media and then I see, this person telling me that a banana is horrible for me, but then this person saying that all they eat in a day is fruit. And then this person is intermittent fasting. And I honestly just have no fucking idea what to do. And I don't blame you, because if I didn't have the background and the knowledge and the education that I have, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do either. And I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I scroll social media and I see things and I'm like, huh? Like, is that true? And I have to fact check for a second. And that's someone who has a master's degree in nutrition. But these people who are selling a lot of the times can get into your head and make you think that what they're saying is what's right. But when it comes to how to eat and unlearning these diet principles or these diet behaviors and this connection that we have to weight loss, it's a matter of recognizing where your body feels most metabolically healthy. Because a metabolically healthy body, and I know I talk about this a lot on the podcast, I talk about it a lot on my pages, but what I hear consistently from clients that I work with is that the more that they hear these things, the more that it starts to shift their mindset and their perspective, which makes sense. Think about the way in which diet culture and weight stigma and fat phobia has formed in your brain over the course of the years, right? Like, that's come from the things that you hear, whether that's coming from things that your mom has said or your sister has said or your best friends have said or that you've seen on social media or that we see on TV. Hell, I was literally sitting up here and I had the Today Show going on downstairs and I could literally hear an advertisement on the TV targeting postpartum women and telling them that they needed to lose weight using their supplement. Like, my goodness, in what world do we need to target postpartum women and make them feel bad about their body after they literally just grew a nervous system from scratch? Like, and also, the person who was doing the ad was a man. Like, sir, you could never grow a nervous system, a brain, an entire body from scratch. But yet here we are telling these women that, oh, it's been 6 weeks since you pushed that thing out. Now it's time to get right back to where you were 9 months ago. Absolutely fucking not. Like, that is not how things should be. So thinking about how your brain has been shaped and molded over the course of the years, that's why I repeat myself when it comes to this quite often, because I'm trying to help you change your perspective on what a metabolically healthy body is. A metabolically healthy body does all of those things that I mentioned. You nourish your body 80% of the time with well-balanced nutrition and blood sugar balance and all of the things. You also focus on moving your body in ways that you enjoy. You try to get some steps in throughout the course of your week. You try to get as much sleep as possible. I know I have a lot of moms who listen to me, so you might be like, you don't have kids yet, so shut up about the sleep. And trust me, I feel you. I mean, I don't because I don't have kids yet, but getting sleep to the best of your ability, right? Managing your stress to the best of your ability. If you are doing all of these things, that is the first step. The second step of a metabolically healthy body is more of these objective measures. So it's the fact that you feel energized throughout the course of your day. You don't feel fatigued even though you slept 8 or 9 hours last night. You are not chronically bloated. You have good digestion and you don't feel like every single food causes you to have 6-month pregnant belly where you feel super, super uncomfortable. You're pooping once a day. You have a menstrual cycle every single month. You have hunger and fullness cues. And actually, I want to take a little side note here and explain this one a little bit further, because when we are under eating and over exercising, it causes stress on our body. And we've talked about this before when it comes to the basal metabolic rate, or the amount of calories that you burn at rest to exist and survive, right? And what happens when that basal metabolic rate doesn't have enough energy? It has to prioritize the functions in the body that are necessary for you to live. Your lungs breathing, your heart pumping, blood moving through your body. Digestion and hormone production are going to fall to the wayside. And that's a lot of the reason that a lot of people feel chronic bloating, that they feel really uncomfortable, that they experience constipation. But on the other hand, what we also have to recognize is that, yes, women can lose their periods when they're under eating and over exercising, but hunger and fullness cues are actually hormones. So when we think about the ways in which under eating negatively impacts our hormones, it's because our body doesn't have enough energy to prioritize that hormone production. So you're probably not going to feel hunger and satisfaction to the level that you are. And the reason that I wanted to do a little sidebar of that is because the amount of women that I work with that are so absolutely terrified of when they start to feel hungry as they consistently start eating and balancing their blood sugar more. They're like, I'm hungry like every 3 or 4 hours and it's really scaring me because I haven't been hungry in years. And I'm like, why are you scared of that? That's literally a sign from your body that your metabolism is functioning in the way that it needs to be functioning. Like, you don't question when you have to pee. That's a physiological function, and you don't question that. You don't need willpower to avoid going to the bathroom. So why do you have this idea that you need willpower in order to avoid eating, in order to avoid hunger? You don't need to chew gum. You don't need to drink water. You need to eat foods, eat nourishing foods that are going to help you stay more full and satisfied, right? So these are all signs from your body that you exist in a metabolically healthy body. And I think one of the hardest parts about this too, and about intuitive eating, I've made this comparison a lot lately. There's two different things that I want to talk about. Number one is that intuitive eating is really challenging because diets are very black and white. It's really easy to follow a diet, and it's really easy to do a diet right or wrong, because if you go into MyFitnessPal and you plug in a food, it's going to ding red at you if the food is too high in saturated fat or too high in sugar for MyFitnessPal's liking, right? You're doing it wrong. You go over your calories, you're doing it wrong. Intuitive eating, there's a lot of gray area because it's not about me telling you what you need to be doing. It's a matter of you learning to be back in tune with your body. And if you've been dieting for a lot of years, you haven't been in tune with your body for a really long time. So what I compare intuitive eating to a lot lately is golf. Like, we think about Scotty Scheffler, for example. If you're not a golf fan, he's someone who has won like an absurd amount of tournaments in a row. I think it's like 6 tournaments in a row. And then this past weekend was the US Open, which is a major tournament in the golf industry. And the only reason that I know all these things is because I watched Full Swing with my husband. And if they could just make all sports into a reality TV show, there would be a lot of happier marriages. That's all I have to say. But anyways, I'm now invested in golf because I watched Full Swing, and now like the golfers that I watched in Full Swing that I'm obsessed with, like I want to keep rewatching them over and over again. So this weekend for the US Open, I'm not going to lie, I only watched on Sunday. So I'm not even sure if Scotty Scheffler made the cut or not, or if he was just really far down on the leaderboard. But someone who has won 6 tournaments in a row then gets to a major tournament and doesn't make the cut or is really far down on the leaderboard, because golf is something that's a practice. It's probably something that nobody is ever going to be perfect at because it's hard. Intuitive eating is the same way. It's a practice. It's something that's going to take time for you to get better at. Now, like I said, there was probably a time in Scotty Scheffler's life where he wasn't winning a single tournament, when all he was doing was practicing, and it felt really fucking mentally draining and hard. And if you're just starting out on your intuitive eating journey, that's where you are. But you're going to get to the point where you're Scotty Scheffler, who's winning 6 tournaments in a row and then has one bad weekend, because that's what intuitive eating is. It's a practice. It's something where you're going to get to the point where it's going to feel a lot more seamless. It's going to feel a lot easier, and it's going to feel more natural to just be in tune with your body. But that's something that just takes time, and it takes practice. Now, the other sidebar that I wanted to mention when it comes to intuitive eating is this idea of sustainability, because I kind of joke with a lot of my clients that I don't sell anything sexy, because what do we see on social media? We see a lot of clickbait. We see a lot of salesy tactics. We see a lot of quick fixes, right? And weight loss is one of those things that it's easy to sell because a lot of people really want it. And when it comes to this idea that intuitive eating creates more sustainability for a lot of people, the reason for that is because when it comes to intuitive eating, the reason that you're going to be more weight stable, more metabolically stable, more energy level stable, more stable in equilibrium in general, is because your body is receiving consistent energy. You have the education and the knowledge and the tools to subjectively apply sustainable nutrition knowledge to the rest of your life. It's not a diet that doesn't feel like something you can do forever. It's habits that you've created that make you feel good. And that's what creates the motivation. I want to share a little client story because I think that it's really helpful in really understanding this concept. So I have a client who's working really hard on her relationship with food, and I'm so freaking incredibly proud of her. And we had our session this week, and she goes, you know, I kind of slipped back into my restriction mindset last week, and there were 2 days where I felt myself intentionally restricting. And what I felt was awful. Like, I felt like I had no energy. I got a pimple on my face. I didn't feel good. And immediately I was like, no, this is not what I need to be doing. This is not improving my health. And I think a hard part about intuitive eating and the sustainability idea is, one, that it takes a longer time than what our brains are used to when it comes to quick fixes. And 2, there's no tangible, win, I guess you could say, right away. Like when it comes to weight loss, there's that dopamine hit and that gratification of the scale shifting and moving, right? There's that gratification that comes from that. But sometimes these things that we're working towards in intuitive eating, like more energy levels, sleeping better through the night, better digestion. Sometimes we don't even notice them as we start to implement some of these principles because we didn't even realize how badly we felt before. And so what I said to her was, this is a perfect example of how intuitive eating is a practice. It's something where you lost your footing for a second and you fell back into those old mindsets. But sometimes this can be a really good and helpful learning lesson for you to be like, yeah, when I do that, when I restrict, when I undereat, I don't feel good. And I can't believe that I felt like that for a couple of years and that I don't want to go back to that just to exist in a smaller body, because if I feel like that on a daily basis, if my quote unquote dream body requires me to engage in unhealthy behaviors and activities in order to maintain that weight number, it's not a healthy body for me. And that's okay. And I think that that's such an eye-opening experience to recognize, like, wow, I did feel like crap when I was constantly yo-yo dieting. But when you're in it, you don't know it. Another story happened to one of my really good friends. It's actually my producer, Austin's fiance. She's training for her wedding. Her wedding is next year. And when she started, kind of being ready to go wedding dress shopping, she was like, I think I might start tracking calories and macros. Like, I just want to feel really good. And I was kind of like, okay, girl, you do you. Like, I'll insert my opinion here in a little bit when you come back to me in a couple weeks. A couple weeks later, I get a little text message and she's like, I don't feel that good. And I said, I know. I just needed you to do that and experience it so that you would know that eating intuitively makes you feel so much better. And I don't just say that because it's what I do for a living. It's because the amount of women that I've worked with, that I've seen firsthand, their lives are literally changed. The quality of their life is changed because they have implemented these things, because they focus on habits, and because they're not focused on weight loss. And all of that is so incredibly important because it's what makes it sustainable. It creates intrinsic motivation. I started this podcast episode off by saying that weight loss, no matter what, should always be something that's short term, because the reality is that when we think about the laws of thermodynamics, when we think about physics, it's calories in versus calories out. But there's a lot of fucking nuance to that. And the reality is, for a lot of women, when we're in this restriction and all or nothing mindset, we eat so, air quote, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually see me doing it, but you see me, air quote, we eat so good, we eat so clean, we hit our calories all week long, right? And then the weekend comes. Those hunger and fullness cues are shut off. We go out to dinner with our girlfriends. We have 3 margs. We have a whole basket of chips. We have the entire platter of the enchiladas because we have felt so restricted for the entire week. And now we still end up in a calorie surplus. Or the nighttime, when you skip your meals all day long, you get home, you eat dinner. Now it's time for a sweet little treat. But I'm avoiding the sweet little treat because I'm not allowed to have it. I'm restricted. I can't have it. So instead I have an apple. But then I have a handful of almonds. But then I have, just a little bite of the ice cream. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, just one more bite. And then before you know it, you're at the bottom of the Ben & Jerry's pint and you're like, what just happened? Right? Like, we've all experienced that. And so, yes, theoretically, a lot of the times, calorie deficits, especially very severe and strict ones, can lead us into feeling that overindulgence mindset to where we do end up in an overall caloric surplus, versus that eating what you want and adding what you need. You go out to Mexican with your girlfriends. You have 1 marg. You have a serving of chips on your plate. And then you also order the fajitas, but you get the tortillas on the side because you know that you want a couple with tortillas, but maybe if you get full, you might not want the rest of the tortillas. And that's okay. Like, you eat a well-balanced breakfast in the morning. You have a well-balanced lunch. You get home at night. You have your dinner. You have your sweet little treat and you move on. And that's what creates this sustainability of nutrition, because you don't feel so restricted. You don't feel controlled by food, and you don't experience these constant yo-yos in your weight. Instead, it's just this idea of weight stability. It's not that you're constantly trying to change, shrink your body. You're just existing in maintenance. And I just want to let you know, it's okay to exist in maintenance. It's okay to not want to change your body, even though society tells you that you need to. If you find yourself wanting to lose weight, wanting to change your body, the first question that I want you to ask yourself is, 1, where is this desire truly coming from? And then 2, what habits do I partake in right now that make me feel good from a nutrition standpoint, from a fitness standpoint, from a sleep and stress management standpoint? And then, what habits do I want to include more often to make me feel better? You're not doing this out of restriction. You're not doing it out of means to shrink your body. You're doing it because it makes you feel good. It is self-care. It is taking care of your body. It's cultivating that positive relationship with the one person that you will have the longest relationship with in your life, and that's yourself. So, yes, you can lose weight while intuitively eating, but that's not the main goal of intuitive eating, and it never will be. So, will I always tell clients who have that as a goal that they have the autonomy to want to potentially do that? Yeah, absolutely. But I will also tell them they will not be weighing in with me. We will not be tracking calories. We will not be tracking macros. And that will not be our main focus. And that's okay, because the main focus is health. The main focus is actually improving the quality of your life. And if you start to focus on those things that I mentioned, nutrition, health, or nutrition, sleep, stress management, fitness, oh my gosh, my brain's starting to get a little discombobulated, then you are taking care of yourself. You are a healthy individual. Okay? So I want to leave you with that. And once again, I want to pull back this reflection question that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Okay? The longest relationship that you will ever have is the one with yourself. So what can you do over the course of the next week, month, year to love yourself a little bit more? And like I said, send me some DMs. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being flexible with me. I appreciate this community more than you guys could possibly know. I do also have a couple of exciting announcements that I wanted to share with you guys first. So number 1 is that I actually just released my How to Eat ebook. It's $19.99 in my Stan store, so linked in my bio. And this thing is 30 pages long. It is jam-packed with just getting started on learning how to eat, teaching you how to prepare different types of protein, turn like chicken into 4 different meals if you only want to ingredient prep, different tips and tricks for ingredient prep. What are the macronutrients and how do they benefit your body? Grocery lists, breakfast ideas, 4 months or 4 weeks worth of fueling guides. I don't like to call them meal plans because I don't want you to follow them verbatim, but it's 4 weeks worth of essentially a meal plan that provides grocery lists, it provides meal ideas. There's literally so much information jam-packed into this. And I'm so freaking excited about it. It took me so long to make, but it was something that you guys had been asking for, and I wanted to have something that I could offer at a very low rate so that people who my coaching maybe isn't in their budget at the current moment still have a solid resource that can help them cultivate this more positive relationship with food and their journey. And then number 2 is that I talked about this a little bit a while ago. My friend Cassidy and I started a program called Nourish Without Numbers. We ran the first round of the program and it was absolutely incredible. Honestly, one of the best things that I've ever done. And now we've decided that we're going to turn it into an evergreen course because the girlies that we work with are high achieving. They're busy. They're running around. And something that we've both heard very consistently from not only this program, but also one-on-one clients that we've worked with is that having audios to go back to and re-listen to is one of the best ways to learn and really soak in the knowledge. So what Nourish Without Numbers is 10 hours worth of knowledge. Cassidy is a holistic health coach. She's trained and specialized in behavior health science. She works really hard on teaching you the how. I teach you the why and the nutrition and the education, and then she teaches you the how to actually apply it. Literally, I can't believe how well we work together. It was a match made in heaven. We literally met via TikTok, and I'm so incredibly grateful. And it feels like Cassidy's a manifestation queen, but it feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And this program is kind of shifting and changing the way that Simply Healthy is going to be working, because in order to work with me one-on-one, this will be the new way. So there's two different options. There's the Evergreen course where you can just do the course in and of itself. It's at a much lower rate than any of my other coaching options. Or there's the opportunity to do the program and then also work one-on-one with me or with Cassidy or with both of us. And the reason that I'm shifting and changing my coaching to this is because, like I talk about all the time, having this foundational knowledge before diving into personalized goals, I think is so incredibly beneficial. So to give you guys that opportunity first to be involved, listen to those audios, engage in the resources, not to mention there's also a private community that's filled with women exactly like you to engage with, to learn from, to really be a part of. Cassidy and I are also going to do monthly Q&A calls. We're going to have monthly specialized podcast episodes. I'm literally so excited for this thing. All of the details and the sales page are going to be in my caption. And we are running a special. The program actually launches on July 15th. Using the code EARLYBIRD, you can get 20% off until July 15th at midnight. So if you want to get in early, if this is something that you're really interested in, feel free. We're also offering discovery calls for anyone who's interested but is hesitant and wants to ask questions, which I totally understand. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of money. You want to know that you're getting what your money's worth. So feel free to reach out to me on Instagram via DM, and I'm happy to meet with you for a discovery call if this is something that's of interest to you. All of the details for the ebook and Nourish Without Numbers will be in the show notes, but I just wanted to tell you guys about those things because I'm literally so freaking excited about them. And I think it's going to really change the way that Simply Healthy functions, because honestly, a big drive behind this was that I wanted to create a program, and like so did Cassidy, but I really wanted to create a program where I could work with more women at less of a price, because I wanted to, but like I'm only one human being, so I can only meet with so many people, and I wanted to be able to give this information to so many more people. And so that's where this really came from, and I'm so freaking excited for it. So all of the details for that is in the show notes. If you have questions, DM me on Instagram. As always, thank you so much for being here. I love you guys so much. I'm so appreciative of this community, and I will see you guys all, or talk to you guys all. I guess I can't see you. Well, unless you're on YouTube. Hi, if you're on YouTube. But anyways, I love you all. Thank you so much. You're the best. Have a great rest of your week. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Simply Balanced. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing a part of your day with me. I hope you find inspiration in our discussion and feel more equipped to embrace the balanced girl aesthetic in your daily life. Remember, balance is a journey, not a destination. It's about finding what works for you in your unique way. As we part ways, I encourage you to reflect on one thing you learned today and how you can incorporate that into your life to create more balance. Don't forget to subscribe to Simply Balanced so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed our time together, consider leaving a review or sharing the podcast with a friend. Your support means the world, and until next time, keep striving for balance, nourish your body and mind, and remember to cherish life's simple pleasures. This is Taylor Grasso signing off. Stay balanced and see you next episode.